We have 6 items on the agenda tonight. The first one being 115 Stratford Avenue. If you could step to the table and put your plans out.
Mr. Chairman, if I could add,
Sure.
provided to the committee, to the Shade Tree Committee, and for the record, is our independent arborist, the Township's arborist, John Rockwell Hosbach's report on this property. And this was discussed at the last meeting, that he would go out there and meet with the applicant's landscape architect, which he did, and the findings are in this report for you. Thank you. That's our report.
Yep. All right, good evening, gentlemen. Bo Erickson from 115 Stratford Avenue, and I'm here with my landscape architect, Mike Wagner. At our last meeting, as Stephen Orsini just said, we were asked to go out, tag all the trees, mark which trees we planned to remove, and prepare a tree plan, which we have done. And then we were asked to meet with the township arborist, and we met with him, and he has since prepared a follow-up report. And I'm hoping that my landscape architect can take you gentlemen through that report, and then we're hoping that you can approve our plan this evening.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you tonight? I met with John and Bo out at the site and pretty much went from point A to point B, from the first one we tagged to the final one, walked around the whole site and had him do an evaluation while Bo and I were there. And I have a copy of his report, and I'm assuming you two have a copy of his report? Have you all had a chance
We just
to-
received that. Thank you.
Okay. Have you had a chance to read it at all?
Not thoroughly.
Okay. Well, if you'd like to, we can go through it point by point, and we can get an understanding of John's idea of what was out there, and also the condition that he found the trees in. His summary is the overall condition of the subject trees that currently exist on the site range from poor to hazard in regards to the general health and stability. Numerous defects as extensive decay, genomia rot, armilia, decline beyond repair, and future associated risk is exhibited in a large portion of the palette. Now, what he's really saying is that the large trees, the 36, the 30-inch red maples along the property line, they were all in severe decline. And this is pretty much proof of what we had put on our plan of having them to be removed. But he also goes on to say, though, too, that a lot of those trees, since they were in the overall process of decay, that they probably should not have been included in our calculation for replacement. At that point, we didn't really argue that point, because we wanted to go through with the report and then come back here and then get your feeling on that. As he also states, he reviewed the applicant's compository replacement along with the calculation, and his findings are follows. Owner's calculation, 92 trees required based on what was being removed. And that's the number that we came up from, after going through the ordinance and taking it literally, saying, okay, this needed to be replaced because we were taking it down, not knowing that when the arborist came out, he would have said, you know what, you don't need to, it's beyond repair or saving, you don't need to count in the calculation. He says they should not have been calculated, but it was done. We did it because, again, like I said, we were following the ordinance pretty much to the letter and wanted to make sure that we covered the majority of our bases. He does say, though, that unfortunately he does not think, since it's been submitted, that we can actually take back those calculations. I've talked with Bo, and Bo has talked with his team, and at this point we really have no desire to make that number any smaller. We'd like to keep the plan that we put together, because we think we've put together a very nice landscape package that'll work very well on this property. So we've been authorized to say that we'd be more than happy to stick with our original number on replacements. Really, the big thing is we're trying to get our recommendation from you, and hope that us offering to do this will give us the ability to get that recommendation tonight. And we can go through all of the replacements that he requires if you'd like, but in general, he's pretty much telling us that we've overcompensated by 77 trees. So we're giving additional 77 trees to the property. He also said he did a walkabout on the existing trees on the neighbor's property and did come to the conclusion that some of them are in decline. Unfortunately, or fortunately for us, they are not within the 10 feet of the property line. They're off of that, so with that said, we would not be held responsible if something was to happen, or even to have to replace them. But in his conclusion, does state it's in his professional opinion that the subject trees that exist on the site are in very poor condition, and that the new proposed landscaping will benefit the community in restoring a healthy landscape/urban forest. The owner made it very clear that he wants to aid in the restoring the property and adding value to the community, and has no objection to the overestimated compensatory. Best regards. So, did you have some questions that we can answer, or?
I do have one question. In the, right above the conclusion, our arborist stated that regarding the trees on Mr. Fuchs's property, he suggested some of the trees that were overcompensated for be offered to the adjacent property owner as a good neighbor gesture. This should be determined by the two owners. So not saying that that's a requirement, but would Mr. Erickson be amenable to reaching out to Mr. Fuchs to perhaps taking some of those over the tree of those 77 trees and restoring that?
I have done that, and he has said he would decline that offer, but that offer, I will continue to extend that offer.
Thank you.
Yes, no problem. I have met with Mr. Fuchs and did offer to provide trees on his property as well, or plan or additional compensatory trees on his property. He said he would prefer me not to do that, but if he reconsiders that, my offer will remain.
In the previous submission, excuse me, there were several pine trees involved that were supposed to be retained. Are they still in the package?
Yes, sir, they're staying.
What was the final outcome of the 36-inch ginkgo?
36-inch ginkgo will be removed because of the construction.
Okay.
And do you feel there's sufficient clearance between the pine trees and the grading and the stormwater management system that you're proposing?
Yes, the drip line of those trees is roughly 12 to 15 feet out from the trunk. The initial grading is going to be a minimum of 25 feet from that, but the sedimentation and the erosion control and the tree protection fencing will be up before any type of construction will go on.
You know which sheet here has your tree protection on it?
It's on the ENS plan, which is not part of the
Okay.
landscape plan.
It's not part of this package. It's on the ENS plan, which we would be more than happy to show you during preliminary approval.
Mr. Chairman, in an effort to preserve trees, as opposed on some of these projects where we have numerous sheets that are required for subdivision land development, trying to reduce that submission for shade tree. So if that is on one of those other pages, if you have your full set, Mr. Erickson, you could show them the appropriate tree protection. But instead of having, some of these jobs are pretty large, and it's quite a bit of printing, for whereas this committee is just going to look at maybe 4 or 5 sheets.
Mr. Norsini, I do not have the full set of plans with me. I was prepared to discuss the shade trees, but they are on record at the township as part of the preliminary plan submission as well as the conditional use submission. So I'm sure that this building has numerous copies, and if the Shade Tree Commission requires additional copies, can be sent to you either electronically or by paper copy, if you wish.
Well, the important piece is that if you look at the drawing that you have showing right there, you could point out this position where the existing 36-inch ginkgo tree is, right? And that would be right about there. And so the only way that tree could be saved would be to not build that last thing. Is that about right?
Well, this is not being saved anymore.
I understand that.
Correct.
That was my point. All right. Thank you.
And then, just for the record, the tree protection does surround all the pine trees that we have agreed with our neighbors to protect, and that fence will be installed as depicted on the ENS plan.
Just on these contours here, just, I guess would be to east of the pine trees, that initial berm that you have getting put in,
This one, or we're looking in here?
no, the first berm, right here.
Okay.
You have a couple grade lines coming pretty close to these pines. You think you could contour that back a little bit?
We can slide these back. This is all going to be new installation material. I don't see it would be a problem. Just remodify.
This is the new installation, this is the existing pines, correct?
These are the existing.
I'm
pines right
sorry,
here.
yeah.
This is going to be new installation. This is going to be new grading. I don't see a problem why we couldn't pull that back.
Just tail that off, and then
Ju-
in the back between
Just
these
for the
maple
benefit
trees.
of the board and the folks watching at home, those contours are actually indicative of a slight fill condition, so it's not actually a cut.
Yes.
So at that proximity to the root zones, the fill is going to be just a few inches, so there really shouldn't be any adverse impact to those trees. They're pretty well established, and they've been through a lot, so those activities shouldn't hurt them at all.
You also pointed out
Well-
another spot, Chuck, too.
Well, we're doing some filling on these big maples in the back, so you're going to have to move that grade line out of the drip,
definitely do that.
out of the drip line of
Certainly.
those couple big trees, whether with a boulder wall or something to get your height,
Yep.
okay?
That's not a problem.
Move that contour line, and then in this back corner, there's another big maple back here too. We have some contour lines going right under the drip line.
Yeah, that's certainly a very reasonable condition as far as, making sure that those things are saved.
Right, that's all.
You just make the berm a little bit more steeper and won't be as flat.
Exactly,
I
or
think
just
we would
contour
like
it.
that a little bit better.
Exactly.
Can I ask the commission, just for Sue's record, for the minutes, which will be, if the project is approved, this will be a condition. Can I just ask for some specific language on that? You lost me, I see the contours. Are we talking the,
This is north there, right?
southeast corner?
Yes. Also, up halfway up the property line too, right behind the underground storage location. And then also on the side right here, where it might infringe on the drip line of one of the larger pines there.
So-
it'll be slid back.
On the eastern property line with the residents, the berms would be moved east?
West.
You're bringing them closer to the stormwater management system?
Right.
Yeah, we'll pitch that berm and make it a little bit smaller.
Okay. So then, for the meeting notes, along the eastern property line, the berms will be moved somewhat west,
Yes, sir.
okay? And west of that, on the existing pine trees, you're going to slide that berm towards the stormwater management system a couple feet?
Correct.
What we'll do is we'll pinch down the slope slightly, and we
Okay.
will slide it a little bit towards stormwater management.
Okay, so then on the east of the existing pine trees, that berm will be reduced in slope and moved towards the stormwater management system.
I think, Steve, I know what you're getting at. And what I would suggest is that, as a condition, I would suggest that the proposed grading along the eastern property line be adjusted so that the impact of the trees is minimized to the greatest extent possible.
I like that.
And then the intermediary berm, and that's the berm that's situated just west of the proposed stormwater management system, that grading would also be modified as necessary to minimize the impact on those existing pine trees.
That's fine, because if this gets approved tonight, it's going to be with these conditions. That's going to go to Planning Commission when the time comes, and I just want to make sure nothing gets lost in translation here for, if you do not have to come back to Shade Tree, that we carry forward with their recommendations.
I agree. I'd like
I like the
condition-
wording on that, that's
It
fine.
should be broad enough to allow the flexibility of design as we move through the approval process.
I concur.
Thank you.
As an oddball question, are you actually planning to keep, I remember from, I'm on the planning commission too, there was some, this water retention system's all underground, right? There's no way to kind of put any kind of, build any kind of basin around that, right?
No, the intent is not to use that grading to impound water at all. The intent is simply to provide a variety in the landscape and the topography in that area, blended with the landscaping to create more of a naturalized area. It's consistent with the neighbors' recommendations and desires, and it will have no retention capability at all. So it's just a matter of, it's an aesthetic issue is really what it comes down to.
All right. I was thinking maybe a little bit of retention, but if the neighbors buy into it, okay.
Fair enough.
Okay, further comments?
No, we're hoping we could have your approval.
Okay, I think one of the, excuse me, one of the main issues that I've heard the neighbors say over and over is that those pine trees need to be retained at all costs, because that does help shield the headlights, et cetera, from whatever's going to happen in that zone. Some of the suggestions you've heard here tonight, I think, are good suggestions to preserve those trees. And the fact that you're willing to move forward with the commitment of trees that you have already suggested you're going to plant, and your desire to collaborate with your neighbors, including the Stratford building complex there, I think it's a good plan to put this property back to good usage for all. So are you all in agreement here with their suggestions?
I am.
Okay, so with the conditions that were suggested tonight, thank you, and move forward.
Thank you very much.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
very much.
Start here.
Joe, these are, oh, this is Burnside. That's wrong. Is this the one, they're not labeled, Joe, as far as what number we're looking at? This is, it's all the same, right? Okay. Are we starting with sheet one? Okay.
Yeah, Well, Sue's not here, but for the record, in the future, if the plan numbers or the submission numbers could be put on the plans, it would help us sieving through this. The plans that we've been coming across lately don't include that, and it makes it difficult to identify it with the agenda.
Yeah, Burnside will do after this.
Okay, sorry for the confusion.
My confusion. Ironically, both lots were the same number, and the parcels are the only thing that are different. So let's look at the Lancaster Avenue Hillside Circle, the first lot that's against Lancaster Avenue on the north. As you recall, we were here last month, and the board had concerns about the information that was shown on the plan, and suggested that we go back and simplify the plan, which we've done. And on all three parcels that we're presenting tonight, the existing trees to come down were shaded in gray. And we've heavied up the limited disturbance line. We've tried to heavy up the sanitary sewer, water service, the on-site stormwater management system. We also took the liberty of placing the tree replacements on a second plan. That's why you have two plans. So I think it's fairly simple. When we went back, we also took another look at the trees we were attempting to save that were close to the limit of disturbance line. And for the benefit of everyone, we are suggesting those trees be removed because we feel confident that when we're out there and we're clearing, we're going to try and do all we can do. But if it's within the drip line of the tree and it's not a substantial tree, we've indicated to be removed. As I testified earlier, I went out and looked at all the trees and identified them and classified their condition. And for the most part, of the three parcels, this particular lot is one of the heavier wooded ones. The lot has remained unmaintained or unkept for probably 50 years. A lot of heavy vine growth at all the trees, especially the larger trees. And I've indicated that some of the trees, we can't even identify them because of the amount of growth that are both on the stem and out in the vegetation. And as far as I'm concerned professionally, I think those trees aren't going to make it. But anyway, if you have any questions on that, I think if you look at this plan, I don't know whether you could see it. The colors that come out here are a little tough. But the red line on the bottom of this drawing represents the sanitary sewer, and the blue line out to hillside water.
Could you please speak into the mic? Thank you.
I'll try it again. The pink line or red line to the bottom of the sheet is the sanitary sewer line. The blue is the water service. The yellow is the stormwater management system. The driveway is shaded gray, and the house is gray. The limit of disturbance is clearly defined. And again, all the trees within that area have been shown to remove, except for ones that are at the remote area that we think will be fine. So basically on this parcel, there are about 17 replacement trees we have calculated for the trees we have surveyed. And those are listed on the right-hand side of the sheet. The trees that are dead, that we defined as being dead or in decline, we are not showing them as being replaced. Do you have any particular questions on that particular parcel? As I said at my last presentation, there's a very heavy row of white pine along the Lancaster Avenue side that are outside the site footprint or outside the site itself, and there's probably no reason we would touch those trees in any way. They do form an excellent buffer for the traffic and what have you. There are some vines in them that will be cut back, but for the most part, they're in pretty good condition.
Joe, is your water retention on this on sheet 2, or is it on sheet 1? Oh, it's on sheet 1. Oh,
What's the question? I'm sorry.
I was just looking for the stormwater. I see it here.
Stormwater's on sheet 2.
I see it.
It's out front, like kind of underneath the driveway. I mean, obviously, these are small lots, a lot going on, and we've got to allow room to get the equipment around the footprint and put these different utilities in.
Joe, the dark dashed line that goes around the whole,
Limited of disturbance.
okay. Are you showing tree protection on either of these, Joe, or is that on the, another, is that on another?
It's probably on the engineer's plan. I can show that if you want. I mean, I just...
Just, you have your topsoil piles pretty close on the western side, if this is north, to a 18-inch white pine that you're trying to save?
Yes. One of those trees are limbed up. I mean, because of the canopy, we're trying to do our best to save them, take the lower limbs off that are dead. And I think we could probably, if you're worried about the fence, we could probably move the fence if you want to try. There's not a lot going on back there except for the sanitary sewer line.
I'm just thinking, if you had another spot for your topsoil, you could just close the back of that lot off, basically, do you know what I mean? To traffic. I mean, if there was somewhere else to put it, I don't know where else to put it.
Yeah, to be honest, until we're out, being such a small lot, until we're out there, I think it's gonna be, if we can maybe keep it up in the front of the lot, but then I got the stormwater management system. Again, I have to show it on the plan, but a lot of it is gonna, it's gonna be such a tight lot that possibly,
Do you know what I'm saying?
and I don't know how much topsoil I'm gonna get when I go to the lot itself, you know, I might have to be honest, you know, again, our intention is to save as many trees as possible.
Yeah, either that, or if the tree dies, escrow it and just replace it.
Okay.
Any chance of moving that sewer line south for your hookup to stay away from that 17-inch red maple?
Yeah. Possibly. Again, it all depends on when we get on site. Yeah, the goal is to stay away from it.
Can you tie it at any point along that line?
Yeah. You know, if we gotta bring it, come in here, we can.
I'm just a little bit worried that you're showing your area of disturbance, you know, outside of the drip, you know, on the far side of the drip line of those two trees that you're trying to save. And, you know, if it's not going to work, just include those two as taking them out and you know, be put in more compensatories because the lot's so tight as it is, you're going to be fighting to try to save these two between your topsoil pile and your sewer line, that you might as well just call it a loss now and put in compensatories for those two.
But where am I going to put all the compensatories, I guess, is the next question.
Well, there are
Let me
avenues
just,
with which you can place compensatory trees in a fund if you can't plant them on a site, to benefit the rest of the township.
Jim, can I just clarify that I understand what you're saying? You're talking about the maple tree,
Yeah, there's just the two trees that are,
the white pine and the maple.
right, that are inside of your area of disturbance there.
It looks like we could move or connect the sewer line down in this area, put a diagonal in here.
You can go south from
Yeah.
how it is now.
As long as we stay on the site, obviously.
Right.
And it looks like we could probably move I guess the pine, the problem is it's in the vicinity of the stockpile, and I guess TR is right. We really don't know how much topsoil we're going to run into when there's not a hell of a lot of available space elsewhere on the site to place it.
Well, you could just move that topsoil just due south to where
Due
that.
south?
To
We could
where
do-
the.
We could do that.
See where it says stone wall there?
Yep.
Kick it south.
Yep.
And then you'll have enough fence area to stay away from that.
And we'll do the same in the back with the,
Right. Then you would be out of the drip line of those two.
Okay.
But basically, we're just trying to get you out of the drip line of those two trees, if it's
Okay.
possible.
yeah, not a problem.
Okay?
Just on the south side, where we're doing some grade changes, we got a 286, a 288, a 388, and a 390 heading south toward the other lot there. You're coming pretty close to a 15-inch poplar, a 17-inch white pine, and a 19-inch white pine with that grade line change. You basically, you're probably like 5 feet from the trunk at that point. It looks like you'll be filling here. You'll be filling, like creating a little bit of a swale here, up.
Yeah.
You're pushing that 290, so you're gonna be,
But it looks like we could tighten up on the slope a little bit. Pull the contours closer to the swale.
if it's possible.
Okay.
It's going to be pretty steep, is it not? It's all right. It's already steep now, right?
It's steep now, but again, the water to go to the front of the house. The goal is to save these trees because they create a nice buffer to the back of the house. So we're just gonna have to work around that area to make sure.
Could you speak into the microphone, please, just for
I'm
the
sorry.
folks at home?
Yeah. The goal is to save those 3 trees because, again, they're a nice buffer between the 2 houses, and we'll need to make the grade work between the 2 of them to make sure that they do stay. I don't see an issue. I understand this, the grade is getting steep, but to make it steeper, I'm building this house right now. That's even a tighter barrier, and I don't see it being that big of a problem right now.
Well, I guess our only point is that the more soil that we're going to pack on top of the tree roots of those pines, the likelihood of them surviving the compaction and the additional soil is going to be very difficult. So either we could, again, buffer that side with a few boulders to help you get your swale, but without having to put additional soil on top of the root zone, would aid trying to save those trees between the 2 properties.
Okay.
If that's possible. Joe, do you see what I'm getting at there?
It's a good suggestion.
All right.
Can we move on to the lot just directly below that lot?
Before we move on for the minutes, I just want to make sure we're perfectly clear for Sue's benefit. So the sanitary sewer for the Lot 2 parcel will be adjusted to reduce the impact on the existing 17-inch red maple. And the grading just south of the proposed structure will be revised again to reduce impact on the existing,
3 existing trees.
3 existing trees: tulip poplar, red maple, and white pine.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay. So can we move
This
to?
next lot below,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Did you have a question? Okay. This next lot is a smaller lot. It's basically free of trees of significance except for one large walnut, which unfortunately is right in the center of the site. But beyond that, there aren't too many other trees on the site. The only question we had was there is an easement on the right-hand side of the site in this location. And we don't really see any reason to touch them, even though they're within the, speaking of these, the 8-inch maple and the 21-inch white pine. I think we can work around them if we can, unless either the homeowner or whoever controls that easement wants them down. Is that a fair statement?
Where if in construction, it has to come down.
What does one of those plans say that that's a township easement for a certain distance wide for a sanitary sewer line? I was wondering, I just saw that, I was wondering how you could build a house right adjacent to it.
There's sanitary sewer in the street, but then there's also, at one point, they brought the sanitary sewer up here to tie into the house as well, in the back of the house. That's why there's an easement there.
The only concern with the easement is the easement should be 10-foot either side center line of pipe. And right now, the 21-inch white pine is 12-foot and 8-foot roughly. So I don't, if the pipe is laid at 10 foot, you're not going to save that tree.
Okay.
And the whole purpose for keeping the 10-foot clear, should somebody have to go in there, if that pipe is slid too much to one side of the easement, they're going to violate the easement when they go in for repair. That's why you're looking for 10-foot either side center line of pipe. So in reality, well, the 8-inch maple and the 21-inch white pine really should be X'd out, similar to what you have the other trees in the easement.
And we will adjust the replacement accordingly.
Could you show me on that where the easement, the sanitary easement is? Okay. No, it just, is the house, I assume, is right up against the edge of the easement?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Again, just for the record then, so for the removal of the white pine, that would require an additional 3 replacement trees, 2 being large canopy trees. And for the removal of the 8-inch maple, that would just be 1 replacement tree, additional to what's shown on there.
We understand. And just so you could, to be consistent, this second plan for these same 2 parcels show you graphically the number of replacement trees for each lot, for each parcel. One lot gets 16 replacement trees, the other one gets 17. So there's a total of 33 replacement trees for these 2 lots. And we're using sawtooth oak, sugar maple, sweet gum, honey locust, American elm, and some American holly. Obviously, we'll place these at the appropriate locations once everything is constructed.
And Mr. Rosati, as the chair said, if it's determined that there's not enough room to plant those trees, an amount of $500 per tree, you could pay that to the township's tree fund, shade tree fund, and in lieu of planting those trees. And we will use that on other projects for shade trees in the township.
Okay.
Understood. Any questions on these?
Nope, we're good with that one. So,
Mr. Chairman, before you start on the next one, I just wanted, while we were talking about the compensatory trees, I just wanted to inform the Shade Tree Commission that the Big Tree Program will begin in about a week, and that'll be the planting of some 24 trees throughout the township. It's funded by Chanticleer. It's administered by the township, and most of the legwork is done by Radnor Conservancy. And the riparian buffer planting is also taking place at the Willows. That got started today. So just a little news for the board.
okay, that's excellent news.
The third parcel is off of Burnside Avenue. Again, this is a site that's kind of remained vacant for many years, so there is a lot of undergrowth and vine growth. But in any case, again, we have simplified this plan to clearly show the limit of disturbance, all the trees that are being removed in gray, the sewer line, the water surface, and the stormwater management and the topsoil area. This site also has a continuous row of evergreen trees. I believe they're arborvitaes along the, I guess it's the west side in this location that are in pretty good shape, and they will form a natural buffer for the property next door. We're not interfering with any of them except perhaps one down near the stormwater basin. So let me just review briefly. The water service is coming directly down the driveway to the house. The sanitary is running very close to the edge of the driveway. And the stormwater, again, shown at the bottom end of the site. And the topsoil stockpile is in the west side corner. And again, the disturbance line is clearly marked around the site. On this site, as a result of the tree removals, we are calculated 16 replacement trees will be required. And again, most of the trees that were 30 inches and larger are in bad shape. And again, very high envelopment of vines and understory growth.
Joe, did we talk about that 24-inch poplar on the east side?
Yeah, we did talk about it before. I hate to see it. I mean, the simplest thing would be just to remove it, but I think we want to save it.
You're going to be 10 foot off of that sewer cut. Off of the trunk there.
It's at the extremities of the spread of the tree. It's pretty close.
I mean,
But I mean, it's not running right in the middle of the tree. I mean, it's.
three
I mean,
times.
I don't know what else we can do. Because even if we were to move the driveway, the water is pretty tough.
Yeah, but I think we can trench it and put the sewer in and keep the tree. I know I have a sycamore that we went right underneath over at my house in Springfield, and it's doing well right now.
Yeah, tulip poplar and a sycamore are two different creatures is the problem.
Thing down the middle of the driveway?
Try to move the sewer more down.
I know you got
I know, you just hate. I hate trenching underneath the driveway because then it settles and then I'm fixing the driveway. It's just more compact.
I pondered that on.
I know it's labeled W, but where you connect the sanitary sewer as it goes down Burnside Road, I'm assuming
Yeah, it
that's,
is sewer, yes.
it's erroneously labeled. Is that, are you running that all the way down the street, or is that has that been brought up to that point?
It's the water.
It-
This
it-
one is.
Yeah, that's your sewer, but it's
Sewer,
labeled
yes.
W, right?
Correct, yes,
So that's yet to be installed?
correct,
Any of that?
yes.
Okay. So this will come up in the other review, but you plan on running your private lateral all the way down the road?
It's not down the road, no,
Okay. I mean, it just looks like it's adjacent to the street.
correct. I think the way it is, there's an easement that's in the front, that's a long Burnside that runs that way, that the sewer would come down.
Okay,
Not underneath.
we'll check that in the grading permit review, but we can't go crossing properties, we can't cross properties without the easement. But the reason I'm asking is, I know you're concerned about putting that in the driveway, and you already have your water line in the driveway, but if you just slid that over a few feet to the edge of the drive, you might help that tree.
Okay, yeah, all right. So we'll just slide this over, all right. And just bring it down.
Okay.
Steve, would it be worthwhile, to put escrow on that tree?
We could do that, Mr. Ward. I think also, like we've done in past times, I think this might be the appropriate time that we require deep root feeding and whatever other measures the commission, I mean, we can make that a condition of the Shade Tree Commission approval. They'll have to note it on the plans, and they'll have to show our inspector that they're doing additional measures, aside from just root pruning, because I'm assuming you're going to uncover some of those roots when the sewer goes through. So we require root pruning, deep root feeding, and whatever other methods you certified arborists would know.
Yeah, my belief is that we can go through those exercises, but coming that close to a 24-inch tulip poplar, that tree should still be put in an escrow.
All right, so we'll show 3 replacement trees for that tree.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand you wanting to save it, but you're pretty deeply into the root system of a significant tree.
So they'll have to show 3 compensatory trees to be installed, whether that tree lives or dies, and that way we're covered if it does not make it in a year or 2.
Correct.
Thank you.
Done.
So there's an escrow for how long?
Well, actually, it wouldn't be an escrow. We're just going to require you to provide 3 additional compensatory trees, basically the assumption that that tree isn't going to make it.
Okay.
So if the homeowner does remove that tree in the future, the compensatory trees are there. And again, if they don't fit on the lot, you can contribute to the shade tree fund in the amount of $500 a tree.
No, we're not trying to make it difficult.
No, I just
Several of us have worked with trees for many, many years, and we
I
know.
have, so I appreciate it.
Okay.
And again, this is the replacement trees that we were showing 16, but with the 3 more, that'll bring it up to 19.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
You want to ask for
Okay, next item on the agenda is 771 to 797 Lancaster Avenue.
Ready? Good evening, Ron Kloss from Bowler Engineering. Here with Jerry Holtz, the applicant. This is the final phase of the Villanova Center, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, just down the road, in which we submitted an amended final land development application. The proposal was for removal of the existing office building, 23,000 square foot office building that sits adjacent to the railroad tracks between our entrance to the center, removal of the retail center next to it, and construction of a 31,000, just over 31,000 square foot retail/office building. So the plans you have in front of you are that amended application. The plan I put up on the board here tonight is the landscaping plan that was part of that package. We did the calculations as far as the landscape requirements go. 7 street trees were required to be planted based on the linear foot of frontage of this portion of the development, which was 200 foot of frontage. And then along with 27 trees planted within the parking area based on the number of parking spaces that we were developing. Anything in the back portion of the property or the portion of the property closer to Kenilworth was obviously, that's already developed, it's not being touched. So the calculation that we based our proposed tree calculation was on that redeveloped area. So again, we have 7 proposed street trees along the frontage, and then 24 trees planted throughout the parking area. I guess the one item that Jerry and I had wanted to discuss with you was, if you've been by the center, you know from the driveway entrance, the main driveway entrance out to Kenilworth Road, there are no street trees along there. We've showed street trees along this section of the frontage. So it would be a little bit imbalanced, and wanted to get your opinions if the commission would be opposed to taking those trees and instead of planting them along the frontage, so that you've got a consistent, more consistent view along there, plant them somewhere elsewhere within the center itself. Other than that, I don't have anything else, and I'll entertain any questions.
So are there any removals in all this process?
There are some small trees that are within the border of the parcel that exists with the office building, where we're bringing drive aisles through, trees that were planted at the time of that phase of the development when that building in the back was built. Those trees are going to be removed, but they'll be replaced here.
And is there a tree removal plan, or are they under 6 inches? or-
They're less than 6 inches. They were planted, how
okay.
long? About 2006, 2007.
Yeah.
So they were planted at 2 inch, 2.5 inches. They're smaller trees. There's about a half a dozen of those that would be removed. And then once we bring those parking aisles through, we would plant those end islands accordingly.
Can I ask the applicant, where would you recommend the trees be planted in lieu of being along Lancaster Avenue? Do you have a quantity?
Well, there's 7 total trees
Right.
along there. We would look to space them throughout the remainder of the center. We'd pick islands or areas. There's some areas behind the office building that's in the center of the site, some grassed areas back there. So we would spread those out throughout the site.
So those So say 3 would go along Route 30 and 4 would get spread out? Is that what you're talking about?
If that's the commission, if the commission wants to see at least a couple there, that's okay with us. If you want to see 3, maybe one at one side of the entrance, one at the other entrance, one in the middle, and then the other 4 towards the back, that's acceptable to us as well.
What I was going to ask is if the applicant would be willing to just plant the additional trees to beautify that center and leave those 7 along Lancaster Avenue, but plant 6 additional trees over and above what's required to provide that beautification and balance you noted. I mean, it's not a large amount. We're talking 6 trees at a few $100s a tree.
Yeah, the preference from the Shade Tree Commission as well as Radnor Township is to keep Lancaster Avenue well planted. We've done a lot of work over the past several years to make sure that the main spine of the township is well planted for various reasons, aesthetics. And believe it or not, trees help slow people down so they don't feel like they have to do 50 miles an hour in a 35-mile-an-hour zone and all that kind of stuff. So if you were amenable to leaving a significant number of trees along Lancaster, as well as improving the interior of your property, that would be a recommendation. And I think Mr. Norsini is suggesting the same thing.
Well, are you saying that above the 7 trees, street trees that are required, plant 6 additional ones?
Right, so leave the 7 street trees as the buffer along State Route 30, and then 6 additional 2.5-inch caliper trees throughout that property, as you noted, to beautify and balance. So that would be that would be 6 trees over and above the requirement, but it would provide the needed barrier that we're looking for along Route 30 and maybe address some of the items you had noted.
Well, I appreciate the suggestion. However, I got to be honest with you, we're really proud of what the landscaping looks like at the center as it is, and I really don't want to go up there and disrupt it. However, so I'll do one of 2 things. I'll just leave the plan as required, and we can always go back and put trees in if we find it's imbalanced. I mean, it's not something that we wouldn't undertake on our own initiative.
That's what your representative stated, that
Right.
there was
I
a
mean,
state
so-
of imbalance.
So I understand that. You did a good job by jumping on adding more trees, Steve. But I guess the thing is that, you know, I don't expect the board to make a rash decision on something, and we don't want to make a rash decision. We want to do it right. So I'm not sure what the answer is necessarily tonight. If we just go ahead with the approval as meeting the code, I'd rather just leave it at that. And if we want to come back and entertain something different, we'll do it. Because I don't want to just randomly add 6 more trees somewhere. There's a lot of stuff that's already there. There's signs. There's all kinds of different things that are already there. Our water pits are in certain areas, and I don't know if I can interspace it correctly. So I'll just leave it at that.
Unless they would like to continue that Roselle Cove is up this way too, Howard. For uniformity. You don't own the other properties along toward Kenilworth?
Yes, we own it all.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. So there is that opportunity to continue that all the way up if you wanted uniformity in that frontage.
Yeah, but I'm not sure I want all those trees to be quite honest with you. You know, the retailers appreciate the exposure of their signage, and you know, at certain times those trees are the wrong height. Okay, they're fine at the beginning, and they may be fine in 30 years when they grow up, when the canopy grows above the, I'll call it the 12-foot sign bands. It's that kind of inner between time that's a little bit problematic. So that's my major concern. So as Ron said, if you're putting them on the kind of on the islands, the parking corners and stuff, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But the problem is that we have signs in those areas. That's where the signage is. So I just don't want to make a rash decision. I want to promise something that, we would regret. So,
What may make sense would be to take 2 of the trees out of the front and then place them on the island heads, and then you can continue the boulevard feel that you've got. That way, it gives you what you want, which is to improve the visibility for the retailers, signage, and gives us the kind of the greenway feel going into the back office building.
right.
Which islands would you want to put those on?
I think that 2 island heads past the first left turn into the body of the center.
So up in this area,
To the left,
up in here,
right there, and then the next island head.
and then further up.
Yeah, take 2 out of the front and maybe shift them to the back.
They're not shown here, but there's probably landscaping planted there right now as part of the office building development.
Yeah, there was a lot of trees planted on the property that already exist.
Yeah, there's
That's not
actually-
shown on here.
There's also, along this island that separates these 2 parking fields, there's landscaping that was planted within there. And I believe at those end line islands then that you're referencing, there was landscaping planted there as well.
Landscaping or trees?
Trees, I'm sorry, trees. Sorry, you're right.
Well, what if we allowed you to thin out the 7 trees that you have proposed and plant them to the east properties along Lancaster?
On Lancaster Avenue, right? Yeah. I think that would make some sense.
You're talking about stretching those 7 trees over most of that distance, is that?
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting, because that would give them their exposure and would also give Radnor,
The feel that we're looking for?
right.
I would be happy to do that.
I think as Jerry mentioned before, we'll just have to look at
Where?
where it makes sense, because as he said, there is some landscaping and shrubs along there. There's also meter pits and things like that. So the locations may not be spaced at 50-foot, 100-foot exactly centered. We may have to stagger those along there.
Right. So, I mean, we'll give you the trees that are on the plan, and we'll be happy to submit it to you where we would think would be best to put those trees, and if you agree with it, we'll be happy to place them there.
Okay. No, I'm good with that. I don't know that you need to come back to us with that. I'd recommend that you make suggestions to Township Engineering as to how you might stretch those 7 trees over the course of those various properties, and we'll be good with that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
We'll note the condition on the Shade Tree Commission's approval. These minutes will go to the engineer, and then we'll make sure that that's all noted on there, and the changes are made.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Allows everybody to move on.
Okay, the 6th item on the agenda is 200 Berwyn Road.
Mr. Chairman, nobody from Bonner Landscape or from 200 Berwyn Road is here. My recommendation is that we would table this until the next meeting.
It was on the,
And if we're missing something, I mean, just by looking at the sketch, I'm not really seeing, I mean, if you read the letter from Bonner Landscape, it pretty much lays out what they wish to do. They want to remove certain trees and plant new approved trees. 7 new spruce, 2 sweet bay magnolias, a weeping cherry, 10 in total. And their request is to remove, I believe, 8 trees and replant 10. So if the Shade Tree Commission is okay with what's been submitted and you understand it, we can notify the applicant that you approve it. It's your call.
But this is the case, the trees were already cut down, right?
No, this is a clearing permit.
No, these things were already cut down.
I don't recall, and I may be wrong, I apologize, but, oh, I'm sorry, yes, my mistake. Where does it say where?
I just like to talk to them, Steve, they can come back.
We'll have the applicant, Bonner Tree or the homeowner in. I'm sorry, thank you for the, we'll do that.
Okay, there are 4 hazardous tree reports, and all 4 were approved by the Township arborist. 117 Woods Lane, there was a 39-inch black oak determined to be hazardous. 215 Hermitage Drive, a 32 poplar, and a 31 pine, a 30 maple, all approved. 1514 County Line Road, 4 oaks, and 66 Oakford Road, a 60-inch red oak. Ouch. Yeah. Things get old, right? Okay. We were sent a letter by Jim Schneller charging the township to consider using a formula based on square footage instead of 3 canopy trees and 1 ornamental. And I would not suggest we address that tonight, but we should all reflect on it. This is more your decision than mine at this point, because this is my next to last meeting. I would suggest personally that I don't recommend the ordinance be revised, but again, you folks are going to be dealing with it more than I. Any other issues for the agenda? All righty. Thank you very much.